I search thrift stores, Goodwills, garage sales, and more for possible treasures. Then I decide whether to purchase or pass. Watch what I do and decide for yourself. Would you buy it? Welcome to another special episode of WyBi, Would You Buy It? This is going to be a top 10 episode focusing on not my most valuable finds, but kind of my most wacky, fun, odd finds. So I haven't been able to get out there to garage sales and flea markets and things because of the coronavirus. And so this is my way of trying to at least stay connected to the hobby. So I hope you will enjoy this. I do have two other videos. One will be top 10 vintage computer finds. The other is just my top 10 sales. So check out those as well. And enjoy this video about my top 10 wackiest, craziest finds. And you'll see there's a couple extra bonus ones in there as well. It was hard to limit it to 10. Thanks, enjoy. So number 10 is Weepy the WeeWee. It is a small plastic figure. You fill up the base with water and then naturally you pull down his pants and he will shoot out a stream of water. It works pretty good actually. I got two of these both in box at a garage sale. They are obviously fun. What's funny is after I sold these, I did see a similar type of Weepy the WeeWee being used at a hibachi restaurant as a joke to put out the fire. So I bought both of these for $2 each and sold them each for about 13 bucks. So number 9 is the Radio Shack 12587 portable radio, and it definitely qualifies as an odd find. I saw and found it at a Goodwill outlet store. I looked at it because it was a little bit older. It wasn't super old. Put it into eBay, and I was very surprised by what it was selling for. Looked into it a little bit more, and what it turns out is it is very sought after by ghost hunters. It's a ghost box, and something about the way it scans and the white noise makes it more possible to hear ghosts or whatever. Not something I believe in or understand. Somebody believed in it because I paid $2 for it and I sold it for $101. So this is a bonus, and it is simply known as the bird. It is a funny shaped yellow bird attached to a big spring. You are supposed to attach it to like a ceiling, pull it down, and then just watch it, boing boing, spring up and down. It was in the original box. It just had a certain look that was super cool, so I picked it up. Interestingly enough, I saw this briefly on American Pickers a while after I sold it. So, and I think they took a look at it. I can't remember if they bought it. I paid $1 for it and sold it for $11. And it sold really quickly, which made me think that I might have underpriced it. I think it sold within like 4 or 5 hours of listing it. So number 8 is a cool, really fun find, Black Sabbath Carnival foil art. This is like, when I saw this at a flea market, a guy had it kind of on his truck, and I just happened to notice it. It totally brought back the nostalgia of like going to like carnivals as a kid. They used to have these things for all sorts of bands. It's kind of like crinkled up tinfoil behind like a glass, image. The condition wasn't perfect on this. You can see on the frame there somewhere, but the graphic itself is actually very clean, very bright, and it's Black Sabbath, which is super cool. So I definitely took it. I paid $1. I sold it for $60, and the guy who bought it was super psyched. He emailed me saying thanks, and he was just super excited. So it was very cool. Number 7 is a Barbie and Ken lot. It's kind of fun, a little bit different. Barbie, of course, is known for scarring a generation of young girls, telling them that they had to be blonde and blue-haired with an impossible, figure. So when I saw these at a Goodwill-type store, and I saw that they were older, they're definitely vintage, and they weren't all blonde and blue-eyed. There's some African-American dolls, totally groovy clothes and outfits. I thought, well, these have got to be different. They got to be kind of worth something. I'm not a collector. I don't know Barbie, so I was definitely taking a chance. And again, as I got home and looked at the stuff, I saw that there's some things that matter in terms of, where they're made. So some are made in Taiwan, some are made in Hong Kong, and these are all little details that matter to people. So again, I decided to buy them. Embarrassed my son checking out at the counter, with a case full of dollies. But I paid $6 and I sold them for $93, so I think it was worth it. So here's another bonus while we're on the theme of Barbie. This is the Barbie Country Camper. This is something that every boy secretly lusted after, his sister's country camper. and not myself, of course, but other boys. This thing was as cool as you could get. It had a side panel that opened up. It had, chairs. The front windshield opened up. The steering wheel turned. The back piece kind of slid down, and there was like a kitchenette in there. There was a little tent area. This was as good as you could get. It was so fun when I found this at a garage sale. It was in box. The condition was not perfect. There's some things about the camper where there's some splits and things like that. But overall, it was really good shape, and it was a really fun find. I paid $4 for this and sold it for $47. So number 6 is a fun, actually kind of heartwarming find. They are some World War II newsletters. I got them in what must have been an auction lot. I must have bought that lot for something else, because this is not the sort of thing I would have known about or understood when I was buying. So when I looked at them, it took me a little bit to figure out what they were. They almost seemed like they would just go straight into recycling. But I started to look at them, and I saw, that these were from World War II. And what I realized, they were something called a messenger, and they were basically newsletters that were put out by the Lutheran Church. And these particular ones had then kind of been personalized by the Salem Lutheran Church in Lebanon, PA. And there are typewritten notes on the back page of each from the pastor, and it mentions a whole bunch of different names of soldiers and Marines and their families and what they're up to. And there's just something. There was also a pass in there. So once I realized what they were such a piece of history, there's no way I was going to recycle them. So I did put them up for sale, and I paid somewhere around $1 for them. Again, they were in a lot, and they sold for $30. The person who bought them did email me. If I remember correctly, he was from the Lutheran Church. I don't think he was from Pennsylvania, but he bought them with an appreciation for the history of what they were, and I think he worked for an organization that kind of looked into the past in World War II. So I was glad that they went to a good home. So number 5 is another fun, heartwarming one. This is basically a handmade poster of Queen, You're My Best Friend. What had happened is I bought a tracing table, I think from Transagram, and it turned out the table itself was not worth anything. I didn't even sell it. But inside of it was this. And again, I looked at it initially, and I was just going to recycle it. Who wants to buy a folded up piece of paper? But I took a better, closer look at it, and I realized what it was. Again, so this is obviously handmade. It's pretty large. It's almost 3 feet tall, and the table had come with a whole bunch of different things that you could trace. So like pre-done sheets with like hearts and all the different letters and all the different the fences and leaves and things like that. So the person who made this poster had to take a huge amount of time to trace out all the different letters and lines and pictures and leaf by leaf. And as I looked at it, I started to appreciate how much time and love and effort went into it. I thought, well, I can't, I can't just throw this out. I can't recycle this. So I put it up on eBay. Obviously the condition was not great, right? It's all folded. The tape has somehow turned purple, so, but like, again, I just couldn't throw it out. And sure enough, somebody did buy it. And the guy who bought it emailed me, and he says, hey, you know what? This song is my wife and our song. We danced to this at our wedding. He said his son and his son's wife had also danced to it at their wedding. So that was great that it found a good home. I paid about $1 for it. I sold it for $18. It was more about getting it to a good home and kind of keeping that good karma going. So here's a bonus item, a Michael Landon press release. This was actually in that same tracer table where I have found the Queen best friends tracing thing. This is not in the best shape, but it's kind of an interesting press release when he was just starting Little House on the Prairie. It's got all sorts of information about him. Again, could have gone into recycling, but somebody's got to be excited about Little House and Michael Landon. So again, paid about $1 for it and sold it for $11. So number 4 is a vintage wedding, I don't know, like shower album sort of thing. It is another heartwarming one. I promise you it is the last one. I found this at a garage sale. There was some kind of gruff older guy selling a bunch of tools and other manly things, and he just kind of had this on a separate table. And again, it just seemed like one of those things that you couldn't pass up. I thought there might be somebody like this. It's so vintage. kind of funny, very antiquated notions of getting married and what men and women are. But there's a certain, I don't know, sweetness to it, I guess, depending on your viewpoint. Some of the notions are quite antiquated. They don't disappoint us. Get making a baby, post haste is sort of funny. It looks like this must have been from some kind of wedding shower because there's these little cards in the back that were like gifts or little cards that must have been attached to the presents. So I paid $2 for this, and it is as of now unsold. So somebody out there's gonna want this thing. So number 3 is a fire helmet from Radio Shack, a great fun item. This thing was in great condition. It was in its original box. It is a fire helmet with a working flashing siren that makes noise. My brother and I used to have something similar to this as kids. It was kind of a construction helmet, again with the siren on top. Again, when you think about it, it makes no sense, of course, right? What fireman's going to go into a fire with the siren on top of his head, flashing and making noise? So, but as a kid, you don't even think about that. It's fantastic. You're a fireman, man, complete with a siren. So, I mean, look at this kid. He's, couldn't be happier. He's excited. And look at this kid, how proud he is, how tough he is. So this was a really fun find. I think I found this at like a Goodwill. So it was kind of a rare thing, but I was able to pay just $10 for it, and I sold it for 50. So here are some bonuses, too many to fit in, so I'm just going to go through some. This was a lot of vintage pennants that I found that nobody wanted at a garage sale. The guy gave me them all for $2. I sold them for 75. The look of them, the graphics, the feel of them was just too fantastic to pass up. And again, I know that people collect these, so it was a fun find. This is an Imperial Charm Collector's album. Had no knowledge of these things when I saw them at an auction, but checked them out, could see that they were worth something. In some ways, they're kind of cheap plasticky things, but they're actually cute. There's a lot of really kind of neat detail. I could definitely see why somebody, probably a girl especially, would have fun collecting them. So I paid $13 and was able to sell them for 88. So this is a huge lot of little mini metal license plates from a bunch of states and some foreign countries that I saw at a garage sale. I think Wheaties gave them as a good giveaway in their cereal boxes at some point, which is kind of fantastic. I looked at them for a long time trying to figure out what they were worth. I thought they were so cool. The guy wanted about $100, and I ultimately wasn't willing to pay that. Walked away to another garage sale next door, and the guy came back and talked to me, and finally we settled, and I paid $50, and I was able to sell them for $130. So I don't know what to tell you in terms of what this is. It's obviously a tiger, and it's like a stuffed animal, but it's definitely not soft and cuddly. It's almost canvas. It's relatively firm. And the fact that I did a fair amount of research, but I could not figure out what this thing was, and that made it harder, obviously, to sell if you can't put the right name on it or description on it. I tried selling it. It did not sell. It got very few looks, and ultimately I just took it off listing and have decided to keep it, and it's kind of my unofficial eBay mascot, I guess. So number 2 is a great game from the genius of Marks. It is Pro Shot Golf. It's also marketed as like an Arnie Palmer version. Essentially what it is you got a golf club, but at the bottom you have the actual golfer himself, and you can stick different clubs into his arm, and you pull the trigger, and you actually hit these little foam golf balls. You hit them onto the green. There's a hole complete with a flag. There's boundaries. There's a sand trap. It is actually surprisingly playable. And actually I have a video, and I'll put a link below for it. You'll see it in action. The box, of course, is Mark's awesomeness. It's made to look like a golf bag. I bought this at a garage sale from a guy who was obviously a golf collector. He had all sorts of golf stuff. I paid $10 for it, and I sold it for 60. Super fun. So number 1 is an Amico Sexy Doll radio, and the pictures kind of speak for themselves. This is obviously a vintage piece. It was in box, found it at a garage sale, and it was just too fun to pass on. This is somebody's outdated notion, obviously, of what a woman looks like and how a woman's body parts work. And I guess if you're a lonely guy, you can have a lot of fun, turning it on and off, tuning in the stations, inserting a battery. But there's something funny about this. It's good that they don't make anything like this anymore. I can't imagine them doing that. But at some point, this was somebody's idea of fun, somebody's idea of, hey, let's make some money. Um, so I sold it. I sold it to a guy, and he emailed me saying this was going to be a great fun piece for his bar. I paid $10 for it, and I sold it for $60. All right, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, I went through all my listings, and it was really hard to keep it to 10, so you saw that I added some bonus odd fun finds. Please comment below. Any suggestions or comments are really appreciated. Watch for those other 2 videos about top 10 sales and top 10 vintage computer sales. Please consider subscribing and stay safe, and hopefully we'll get out there soon. Thanks for watching.